My name is Talia, and I'm going to walk you through an intuitive art workshop using oil pastels and inks on watercolor paper. This is a workshop that's good for in any age above 5, pretty much, so 5 years old and up. Anybody can do it. It's fun for adults. It's just a fun, playful activity. And you're going to want to watch this whole video before you begin, just to see the demonstration. I have here just a sample image of an intuitive art piece. So here you can see that it's an abstract piece. The idea with intuitive art is that we're focusing more on the process over the result. So the way that I created this was just, I was playing around. I was not thinking that it would look like this at the end. And that's the idea. We're not thinking about the end result. We're not thinking about what it's going to look like, or that it's going to look like anything specific. Just being abstract, playful, and experimental. So I'm going to demonstrate the technique. The supplies that you need are some watercolor paper. And if you don't have watercolor paper, you can use just thick paper that will absorb the paint. You need some paintbrushes. A sponge is optional, but good. A little jar with water, oil pastels, or crayons if you don't have oil pastels, and then inks, like colored water-based inks, or any kind of watercolor paint will work. So starting off with the oil pastels. So I'm just grabbing any oil pastel. You might want to play music while you do this activity. It's a nice way to just get into the process of it. And I'm just being really loose with my lines. I'm using my whole arm to draw. And being playful and experimental with the way that I use the oil pastels. So you can experiment with using side, or slowing down your lines and adding more pressure, or going really fast and not looking at the paper. Just use different colors. You can layer the oil pastels, they'll blend together. Just playing with the colors on the page. Trying out different types of lines. Yeah, so that's the first drawing. Abstract. And the next step is to use the inks. So I'm just choosing any color. Choose red. And grabbing a brush. To start off, you want a bigger brush. You don't want a super tiny brush. And getting some water onto the paper first is a good way to start, because then the inks will really blend into the paper. But you'll see that once you start adding the ink, it doesn't affect your drawing. It doesn't blend with the oil pastels. So it's a really fun way to have a drawing and painting at the same time. And it's not going to change the drawing that you've done, except for adding more colors. And then you can play with different techniques with the inks. So one that I really love is splattering. So I'm grabbing some ink on the brush, and then I'm holding the brush like this, and I'm going to tap it with my finger above the page. And this creates these speckles on the page and keeps it from going everywhere in the room, because if I do this with my arm, then it's probably going to go everywhere in the room, but this will just land right on the page. And it's a really lovely speckling. It can go on the wet watercolor and sort of spread out into it. So you can play around with that. You can grab your sponge if you want to remove something while it's still wet, if you want to remove the ink while it's still wet, or you can also use the sponge to add water onto the paper, or just create certain texture with the actual sponge. It's fun. Yeah, and then you can let that dry. Once you've done that for a while, as long as feels good for you, you can let that layer dry, and you could continue. You could do another layer over top. You could go back in with the oil pastels and do some more oil pastel drawings on top, and then do some more layers of ink, and keep playing with it. Do a few of them. Just keep experimenting with all the different ways to use these materials. There's a link below this video with the full list of supplies and any other information that you might need. So check that out, and I hope you enjoy making intuitive art, and thanks for watching.